there's one thing you gotta know about me, is that I'm most definitely a platformer guy. You can throw Patapons and Team Fortresses at me all you want, and I'll probably still play them for hours on end. But if you've never even touched Sonic 3, then why am I even talking to you right now? Games like Spyro, Rayman, Ratchet & Clank, and especially extremely tough but fair games like Celeste and Super Meat Boy, those are the shit. And The End Is Nigh is no different. The End Is Nigh is a game that I've surprisingly never heard of before last year, and when I first saw gameplay of it, I just thought, bah, it's just Super Meat Boy. The End Is Nigh was actually made by the same guy that made Meat Boy, Edmund McMillan, with programmer Tyler Glale. And it's pretty much like a spiritual successor to that game. And while I do love Super Meat Boy a lot, this one just didn't speak to me at first sight. Then I played it. God, this game fucking rocks! I think it pretty much deserves the title of my favorite platforming game of all time. That's how damn good it is. I know on the surface it really does look like a Meat Boy clone. I myself thought that at first. But let me tell you, that is not the case at all. And so, in accordance with that, I'll try not to compare this game to Meat Boy from now on. The End Is Nigh is a precision platformer in which you control a black blob called Ash, who lives in a world where practically everyone but him is dead. One day, while streaming to no one, his cartridge breaks and he heads off on a quest to make a new friend, and maybe fix his game cartridge. And man, just going into this game you can immediately notice how good it feels to move Ash around. The controls are very tight and responsive. You press a button and Ash moves at top speed instantly, and when you jump you retain full air control. All reliable, no questions asked. Ash starts out with a simple but still unique list of moves. One of his most important moves being hanging from ledges, from which he can initiate a wall jump that lets him jump longer distances at the cost of height. You can grab onto ledges by either jumping onto one or crouching while walking off a platform. Also, by crouching midair, Ash will start falling down way faster than usual. This can be used as a sort of ground pound, being able to destroy certain blocks if you drop down from above a certain height. Oh yeah, and quick tip, on a controller, crouching is automatically bound to right trigger and down. If you are interested in playing this game after the video, I seriously recommend you unbind down. Because sometimes when trying to swap directions mid-air, you might accidentally press down, lose all of your vertical momentum, and get fucked over. Anyways, The End Is Nigh follows a very simple and linear structure. The game is split up into 15 worlds are split up into levels, get to the end of the levels to beat the game. Along the way you are able to pick up the game's collectibles, tumors. There's a tumor in almost every level in the game, and where there aren't, the game actually tells you that by crossing out the tumor icon in the top left corner. Which, by the way, is something I appreciate a ton. And while some of them are just there floating in place for you to grab very easily, a lot of them can be in actually very well hidden and hard to reach places that require thinking. You can also find mega tumors, which count as 5 tumors, and cartridges. These are only found in their respective hidden levels, which are usually accessible through small gaps in the main levels. Although sometimes some of these entrances can be in really stupid places. Like, come on, what the fuck is this? There's also a ton of areas that look like they lead to secrets, but don't actually. Like here in Arid Flats 3. This block drops down when you hang off the cliff, which is similar to many other clues in the game that point to a secret being in that specific area around the block. So I assumed I had to jump on the block and then jump to the top of the level. But there wasn't anything there. I wasted like 30 minutes on this. Why is this falling block here in the first place? But anyways, the levels. You can really tell they were passionate about making this game. Obstacle after obstacle, you're being subjected to nothing but masterfully crafted platforming goodness. And how every single level in the world leads to the next one seamlessly. It's like, you reach the bottom of the Mariana Trench? Oh, no, you've still got hell to go through. The level design complements the tight controls beautifully. And every time I died, I never really got frustrated and wanted to quit the game. Most of these levels are also fairly open too. There's not a lot of moments in this game where it feels like you have to do unfairly precise jumps between spikes or whatever. And when there are, they're usually not that bad and rather short. The levels are designed in such a way that they don't look hard when first looking at them, at least to me. But in actuality, the opposite could be more true. A lot of the levels also let you follow along at your own pace, letting you evaluate your surroundings to make sure you make the right move. And the fact they made sure you can see every single level on your screen in its entirety at once is also a really nice detail that complements that. And there's this really cool thing the game does with the split. The game is usually a straight and clear path to the next area, but here you are given free paths to follow which all lead to completely different worlds. It's a nice way of breaking up the linearity and letting you choose what you want to do first. And what the game does with the middle entrance is also really cool. At first, it appears as if it's blocked and you can't do anything about it. So eventually you go down into the hollows, reach level 2, and break this wall. And then you're like, huh, cool. This is what I like to see, teaching the players abilities they already had at game start later on. It's not something I see games do well very often. Normally stuff like this would be done with an ability you just unlock later instead. So it's really nice when games try and actually pull off doing this. It's a pretty nice surprise to the player and makes consecutive replays that much more enjoyable. Of course, we can't forget that this game is indeed a game from Mr. McMillan, so by definition very hard. These levels are extremely sadistic and will test your skills to the extreme. No matter how much you evaluate your surroundings, execution is key. And execution can be very hard and extremely stressful. I mean, just look at this death count. This is my second time completing the game, by the way. I personally think that this game hits that very, very tiny sweet spot on the difficulty spectrum. It isn't nearly as hard as Super Mad Dex, but it's way more tightly constructed and consistent in its difficulty curve than that game for sure. There are no weird gaps in difficulty when transitioning from one world set of gimmicks to the others. Coupled with the fact that they're pretty damn solid gimmicks at that, these don't count, they truly make this game what it is. These cannonballs and SS Exodus make me feel like a fucking ballet dancer whenever I bounce from one to the other. And that plop sound whenever you jump on one is just... The polluted air and water in the overflow, and that relief when you just barely get past them before they kill you. Golgotha's retracting spikes that really make you get into the rhythm of your jumps. The iron flats... Well, actually, no, those can go to hell. Yeah, not all of them are winners, unfortunately. Like these weird tube things in the machine. I can never get the hang of these. They just kind of behave like water or some gel-like substance, but not really? I don't know how to explain it, and if I could, I wouldn't be complaining about it right now. Oh, and don't even get me started on these birds. God, Crosser, whatever their name is. They ruined the Wall of Sorrow for me. They're so unpredictable. I can never get them to do what I want them to do so I can progress with the level. True, they do only appear in like 4 or 5 levels and are essential to bounce on only for the tumors. But god damn did I hate getting those ones specifically. What else? The NPCs. They purely exist to have the middle name for shadowing or to just show off the game's sense of humor. Although I do have to say sometimes their placement is a bit fucking stupid. Like, here I am, I see a secret area I could get to, hoping it's a tumor or something, but no, it's just an Isaac reference. I guess that's cool you put it there, but what I just did required more work than getting a cartridge and left me feeling empty. Oh yeah, cartridges. As I said before, you can find cartridges scattered throughout the game in hidden levels. Each one of these will unlock a little 8-bit mini-world themed after the level you got it from, that you can play on the TV in the first area of the game. These are just more of the usual. Beating these does nothing more than reward you with tumors. You can get more tumors from these levels by doing the other challenges, such as collecting a certain amount of rings. They're fine. The only problem I have with them is the 8-bit aesthetic itself. Because you see, sometimes the game expects you to hang off edges of blocks that have spikes on them, which requires a very precise jump. And that is a completely fine challenge piece, except for in these levels, where you can't really tell where the block ends and the spike begins, leading you to either not grabbing the ledge due to estimating it's lower, or getting killed by the spike by estimating it's higher. And this really wouldn't be a problem if it wasn't for the fact that these levels have a life system. Really, this could have been easily fixed by either making the base of the spike thinner, or just making the spike a lighter color. And I know that would either look weird or be unfaithful to the theme of the levels, but come on guys, practicality over style. Also, there's a jump scare in Dig Dead. Oh, and this fucking dumb filter they put on by default. Yes, it's just a mostly harmless, dumb CRT filter, and I don't really mind or care about the scan lines. What I do mind is this. See how the corners of the screen like pull back or stretch or whatever? I'm sure there's a name out there for this, but that's beside the point. Well, sometimes it fucks with my precision, like here in 7-9. I can never quite tell whether or not I'm under these blocks that drop down on you whenever you're under them. And when I can't tell, I'm already dead. This dumb filter makes it way harder for me to bait this block than it should be. And yes, I did eventually find out you can disable it in the game's properties. And I mean, just look at these beautiful and sharp pixels. Why'd they even put this filter on? But how was I supposed to know that? I just wish they added an in-game option to easily toggle the filter so that other people wouldn't have to bother with editing the settings file. Actually, speaking of beautiful and sharp, damn, does this game look pretty! Edmund's distinct, smooth, and simple art style is back yet again, and it hits harder than it did ever before. And unfortunately in both ways. Each world is loosely based around a theme and color, which could either lead to some astonishingly good-looking environments that I could screenshot and hang up over my bed, or my eyes hurt and I need glasses at its worst. Look, I know Golgotha looks really cool, but there's a reason no one liked the dark red display of the Virtual Boy. The characters and enemies are nothing to glance over either. While pretty much all of them are really simple looking, most of the early game enemies do a pretty good job at differentiating themselves from each other. That is until around the time you reach Anguish, and these are apparently two separate enemies now. Ash himself is the definition of simple but effective. He looks like a deflated basketball painted black with a face drawn on him, with the only thing differentiating him from an oil bubble being a missing eye. But god damn do I adore this black piece of goop or whatever he's made of. So much, in fact, I even made a character mod for him on a Mario Kart ripoff game. And he's voiced by Rich Evans. Rich fucking Evans! And what would this video be without me even mentioning the cutscenes? They have this very specific charm to them that I adore to death. The way how Ash just talks about the dumbest shit. How Rich Evans keeps peeking the microphone. How Rich Evans... I love it. And all of this is accompanied by some classical tunes, remixed by Ridiculon. And I mean, what can I say about the soundtrack? They made Night on Bald Mountain sound even more badass than it already was. I do wish the game had actual original compositions with the classical music just there on the side. But I mean, if I'm to listen to the Verdi Requiem, I might as well do it while platforming in a weird blue and black limbo. And even if I dislike the Wall of Sorrow, you bet I'm going to be playing its theme if I ever decide to climb a mountain. And the music really adds to the experience, especially in some of the later worlds of the game. They contain some of the best and hardest levels in the game, while still somehow looking not that hard. They're definitely the places where the End Is Nigh shines the brightest. I could replay these over and over for hours on end. But if I had to point out a best world in specific, I think it would be either of the last ones. The music, the visuals, they have some of the biggest fucking twists in this entire game, and it makes them that much more of a joy to play through them. They also contain probably the most well thought out obstacles in the entire game. They're just an incredible way to end off a game like this. I'm not going to show or spoil what they are because I really don't want to, but if you played the game before, you know exactly what I'm talking about right now. The later worlds are also where you can get the glitched carts, which do not have the life system, but in compensation for that, they're just really fucking hard. Sometimes they're so hard they go into unfair territory, but I guess that's the reason why they don't have lives. These carts are where you can see that the developers went fucking crazy with gimmicks. I mean, for fuck's sake, they made you run away from a Pac-Man parody. And just look at this! I think around the time of designing this specific level, Macmillan Glale just went fucking, like... There's also another type of cartridges, called iron carts. And how do you get these? Well, this is where tumors come into play. The more tumors you collect, the more of these dark, gloomy, and fucking awesome areas you can access through these big blobfish looking dudes. These areas are called and are where you can collect these iron carts. It's filled to the brim with actually pretty tightly designed obstacles and the bad guys from Loco Roco stuck to the floor and ceiling. There are 4 of these iron carts, them being Denial, Anger, Bargaining, and Depression. These levels are again just more of the same, but with a twist. When you die, you get sent all the way back to the beginning, meaning you have to do a completely deathless run. And once you collect all of the iron carts, through the power of lock-on technology, you can play Sonic 3 and the Tower of Ascension, also called Acceptance. Acceptance is comprised of all of the iron cart levels that you have to beat in one go. So if you die somewhere in Bargaining, it's all the way back to Denial. And to add insult to injury, you also have to beat Acceptance itself at the end of the cart, which you have no way to practice on beforehand, unlike the others. And I'm proud to say that this is something I indeed completed myself. But if you thought that was the worst the game could possibly offer, just you fucking wait. By collecting all of the normal cartridges, utilizing the power of lock-on technology yet again, you can play Sonic 2 as Knuckles. Super Mega Kart, which is all of these cartridges with only 4 continues. This is most likely the most evil and fuck level in this entire game. So if you really want to show that you're a End Is Nigh master, you're gonna have to completely 100% clear this one. I haven't even fucking tried to attempt this cartridge yet, but I've seen my friend 100% it before. Long story short, the damage done to his brain after completion has made him a vegetable. And even after conquering a challenge on that scale, the game has official mod support in the form of the Steam Workshop to provide you with an endless stream of content for you to die on. And man, the stuff submitted there can be really... I should wrap this up before I rip my hair out. And that's the End Is Nigh. It's one of the best games I've ever played in my life, and I strongly recommend it to anyone who likes some challenge from time to time. I don't know how many times I can say this before it becomes redundant, but I haven't seen levels this thought out since Sonic Labyrinth. No. This is about as much as I can talk about it, since I really want people to play this game while still being able to experience those amazing twists and turns it has. Because, you know, it's one of my favorites. One of my favorite games. It's most definitely a must-play to the people who love these tough but fair games like Super Meat Boy. Fuck, I said it!